Welcome to the Entrepreneur Podcast, where we take a look inside the lives of the accomplished and successful businessmen and women. We'll get up close and personal with the founders of booming startups. So lean in and prepare to carry away something to skyrocket your own business. Please subscribe to our show and do leave us a review. It means a lot to us. Now, here's your host, Rajiv.
Hey listeners, welcome to the Entrepreneur Talk Show. I'm your host Rajiv Unnikrishnan, and this is the show where we talk about entrepreneurship and speak to great founders, entrepreneurs and investors. Today we have with us Manisha Lath Gupta, co-founder at Mojarto.com. Mojarto is India's leading art discovery and buying platform that curates a large collection of proprietary artworks and collectibles from galleries, artists, bands, stores and designers. Welcome Manisha.
Thank you, Rajiv. Pleasure to be here.
Just a brief intro. Manisha is an IIMB alumnus, and before Mojarto, I spent 18 years in the corporate world across FMCG and banking. After stints with Unilever and Colgate, she successfully transitioned into banking as the CMO of Axis Bank. Again, Manisha, welcome to the show. Do fill in any gaps in intro and do let us know what's going on in your world today.
Well, I think you have that covered. Apart from, my day job, I'm also an organic farmer.
Okay.
So, yeah, that's another dimension, and a mother of 2 daughters.
Excellent. That leads me to my next question. Before we get into work, any passions outside of work?
Oh, you know what? I'm one of those people who does like 5 things at any point in time.
Okay.
And it's pretty exhausting, but I've always had passions. My business venture itself used to be a passion at one point in time when I had a day job.
Correct.
And I think these days my passion is my farm. I'm outside of work.
Okay.
I have now reached a situation where I think I can put a full meal on the table, which is homegrown.
Excellent. So moving on to the product. So what inspired the idea for, initially Indian art collectors, now Mojarto?
This dates back to 2005, Rajiv, like much before e-com or marketplaces became fashionable.
Mm-hmm.
I founded Indian Art Collectors in 2005. And it really came out of my own experience as an art collector. You know how addictive art buying is.
Yep.
And in 2002 and 2003, my husband and I started like visiting galleries and trying to, started buying art. And then we just couldn't stop. We kept buying more and more till we ran out of money and space.
Okay.
And during that time, really, I discovered that the market was fairly inefficient. And one of the 2-3 things that drove me to create the first version of the product, which is what I created in 2005, was that how do I know what's lying with other collectors? How do I know whether the best work of this artist has already been bought by someone? I can only see what's available today. I don't know what's already been sold. And the second, problem that I was trying to solve was that as a collector, the market was so illiquid that if I wanted to sell any of my works, I didn't know where to go and sell them.
Okay.
Galleries typically didn't help you resell because they were too focused on, liquidating their own inventory.
Correct.
And if art was supposed to be such a great investment, by the logic of it being an investment, you had to be able to get out of it. So Indian Art Collectors basically started off as a community platform where collectors of art, of Indian art specifically, shared their collections with each other.
Okay.
And also were able to exchange or sell their works to each other without paying any intermediaries or without even involving any intermediary.
Okay.
So that was the first version of it, which I launched in 2005. And my sister used to run a web development company. And so, over a drink, I was telling her that I have this idea. And she said, we can develop something like this for you. It doesn't look too complicated. So she did the engineering and the development work behind it.
Oh, that's good.
And remember all this while I was working at Colgate Palmolive and selling toothpaste for a living.
Okay. So what would the vision be for the company?
Well, so at that point in time, it really started off as a non-profit. It was, I didn't even have a company. I just had a platform, and it started off as a community because remember, there was no Facebook. There was
nothing.
There was nothing, right? So for people to actually be able to find something like this online was a big deal. In fact, at that point in time, S.H. Raza signed up on the platform. M.F. Hussain signed up on the platform. Like it was actually like, the only sort of biggish platform going around. And it just took a life of its own. And then a year later, what I found was a lot of artists started signing up and putting their own collections on the platform, for, as if they were collectors.
Okay.
And I said, no, this doesn't work because if you're an artist and you want to sell your work professionally, then, you should at least be paying some commission to me, right? I can do the free stuff for the community, but not for a artist for whom it's a business.
Yeah, yeah.
So then I actually incorporated a company, and I put the click and buy module into it. And then from artists, people had to click and buy, whereas from sellers and buyers, there was still a informal community which was
Okay, got it.
So that continued for several years, and only in 2014 actually did I decide to now jump into this full time and try to either scale it up or shut it down, because you can't keep running a small business forever.
Correct.
Yeah.
So, I mean, initially when you thought of this idea, I mean, was it only you or any co-founders with you?
No, it was always only me.
Okay.
And in fact, I had a very dear friend, Namita Sibal, who helped me run it. I mean, she used to be a stay-at-home mom, and she said, okay, well, I'll do some of the operational stuff, like I'll call up the artists, I'll see the fulfillment of the orders and things like that, because we didn't have any office, we didn't have any space. And because I didn't have any office, I had to really innovate on how will shipment and fulfillment happen.
Correct.
Because there was no space, there was no hub where people could ship anything. So the entire sort of logistic framework that was built around the site was that it was built in such a way that a transaction could successfully be completed without any human intervention.
Okay.
So the minute an order was placed, the seller got an alert. The seller shipped it right to the buyer. The buyer confirmed that he got it, and then we kept our commission and we transferred the money to the seller. So it just all worked beautifully. But Namita used to call up and follow up with some artists and give them some help and that kind of a thing. Yeah. So she helped me for quite some time, and then my 3 years at Axis Bank, which was 2010 to 2013, because in Colgate there was no conflict. I mean, the company knew that I ran something called Indian Art Collectors, but between art and toothpaste there was very little conflict.
Correct.
But when I joined the bank, even though the bank also knew, because I declared it to the bank, but I felt like I was in a very senior position and I didn't want any kind of a conflict.
Correct.
Because so at that point in time, my sister, who had originally anyways developed the platform, she stepped in and she sort of ran the venture for 3 years till I came back in 2014 and took it back from her. Yeah.
So when you thought of the idea, how did you validate it? Did you just straight away launch a beta social platform or just...
Yeah, pretty much. I had about 60, 70 artworks in my own collection, and a cousin of mine had a fairly vast art collection as well. So we put our collections, together about 125 odd works as the first set of works up on the platform. And then I started telling my friends and she started telling hers, and we tried to build up that community. And before we knew it, we went from 100 works to 500 works. And, and today we have, more than 10, 12,000 works on the site.
Excellent.
So, yeah.
So Mojarto is like a pure play e-commerce, or is it also right now, do you also have a community still?
No, it's now a pure play e-commerce.
So how do you source, how do you source the work, number one, and number two, how do artists come on? Bring their work on?
Sourcing was a challenge in our earlier days, because remember, there was no way to find anybody.
Correct.
There was no Facebook, there was no nothing. People didn't have personal websites or any profiles. These days, artists are far more savvy and they know how to market themselves on social media and things like that. So actually, the challenge really of sourcing was pre-social media. The challenge of sourcing is not so high now, but we actually have the challenge of turning away artists rather than accepting.
Correct.
Because it's a curated marketplace, so it's not a free-for-all marketplace. So as a result, we get about 20 applications a week, and we probably just accept 2 or 3 of them every week.
So what's the vetting process or the screening process?
So we have a curation team, and the 3 or 4 things that we look for from an artist or a designer is basically they are expected to upload a body of work, like at least 5 different pieces of work, as well as their biodata and their statement, artist statement and things like that. And we look for 2-3 things. We look for vision. We see, is this person doing some original work, and does he have an idea in his head, or is he just sort of making random things, right? Because you can be a fairly skilled artist, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're a good artist.
Correct.
The second thing we look for is technique. We see whether the technique is fairly sophisticated and refined, because again, you can have an idea in your head, but may not have great technique. And the sort of the third thing that we look for is past exhibitions, profile, what kind of work has people done in the past, and what's the educational background like. So we do look at the biodata and then see whether this artist should be brought on board. Yeah.
So Indian Art Collectors was acquired by NDTV. So how was and then rebranded to Mojarto. So how was the road to acquisition? I mean, was it pretty simple, or you knew someone there, or?
No, actually, you know what happened? I had a chance meeting. I'd actually come to Delhi. I'd come to Delhi to start scouting for PR companies to do PR for Indian Art Collectors.
Okay.
And one of the first PR companies I went to, which is by the name of Flint, shared an office with the India Art Fair people, which is led by Neha Kripal.
Correct.
And I bumped into Neha. So I said, oh, let me just say hello to Neha because, she happens to be sitting here as well. And, Neha said, hey, what's up? What's going on? And I said, oh, I'm scaling up Indian Art Collectors now and really making it into a much larger marketplace, bringing galleries on board and things like that. And she said, you know what? The NDTV guys are planning to do something very similar. And they are looking for somebody so she said, are you open to the idea of being acquired by somebody?
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, that's a hypothetical question, but one can always meet and talk because there's no harm in doing that.
Correct.
So then she set up a meeting for me with Tara Roy, who also happens to be Pranoy Roy and Radhika Roy's daughter.
Okay.
And she was the one who was leading this venture from NDTV side. So I met up with her, and a couple of things that I had realized, Rajiv, in the course of my running this for the last 1 year was that as a category, art is a very unevolved category in this country.
Yes, very true. Yeah.
It's not like gadgets or fashion or jewelry, which everybody is just obsessed with. And so therefore it would need somebody with had more staying power to really build the category.
Mm-hmm.
And definitely it would help if one could get access to a larger mass media vehicle, which would allow us to do some category creation. Because you have to seed these ideas into people's consciousness, that, how you could improve your space, how you could express yourself through art and things like that. These are larger tasks that can simply be accomplished by advertising.
Okay, got it.
So I felt like it was like a really sort of a good a synergy that we could build together with having NDTV's reach, their ability to get content, and their ability to advertise and to do television programming. Those were things that as a small startup one could not even have imagined doing. And I think my training as a corporate person all these years, I just felt like what I realized that I'm a bit different from other entrepreneurs because I tended to still think like a professional working for a brand and for an organization. Correct. And I felt like I must do what's right for the business.
Okay.
And what's right for the brand.
Okay. So your revenue model is commissions, right? Pure play.
That's right. It's pure play commissions. We have slightly higher commissions on artist sales and, slightly lower on gallery and reseller sales. But yes, it's a commission model. And we don't hold any inventory.
Got it. So we have competition like I think Anasha, Cupic, Paint Collar, FISD, Art Flute, and I think few more. I mean, so how do they pan against you all or what? I mean,
I think the fundamental difference is that many of them are online art galleries.
Okay. Got it. Okay.
That's what they are.
Okay.
Whereas we are really a marketplace. I mean, we have galleries who are there on Mojarto.
Got it.
So we are actually, sort of a notch above in terms of structure.
Okay. So you're doing around 20 lakhs a month and expecting to go around 10x in a year. So is there any funding happening to help that pan out?
Yeah, we've actually got our bridge round of funding already.
Okay.
And, we raised about $500,000 from an angel investor who has some other interests in art. He runs a bunch of art galleries across Dubai, India, and Singapore.
Okay.
And also runs a very reputed art magazine called The Arts Illustrated. So, so we've been funded by them, and we have now really just started getting our marketing and advertising plan off the ground.
Got it. Wait, so before this acquisition, the Indian Art Collectors is fully bootstrapped?
Fully bootstrapped.
Yeah. Excellent. That's quite a few years.
Bootstrapped and 10 years. But I could afford to do it because I had a day job, right?
Correct. Okay.
So so it didn't really pinch me that much because I had a day job.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what's the team size currently at?
The team size is now about 17 odd people.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's still a small team and we want to keep it like that. We are quite conscious of the fact that this is a long haul and we need to keep our costs very, very low. And, that's the only way that we'll manage to really build this category up and make it into something meaningful.
So what do you think are the key challenges faced by, let's say, art marketplaces like yours in India?
Well, I think some of the basic challenges are more to do with, how we are as a society. I mean, art has not really been a, big priority for any of us because we were always struggling with the more important issues like, finding jobs and getting degrees
Correct,
and
correct.
things like that, right? So it is a little bit of a evolved category in the sense that, when everything else is taken care of, then you turn to art. So it's a little bit of a self-actualized category.
Correct.
But I do think that, there is enough potential in the country for us to have a significant, sizable target group to really target. And people do have disposable incomes, and people are now showing interest in pursuing other, finer things in life. It's just that they just don't know how to get started with art. I think some of the key barriers is that people say, I don't understand art. I
Correct.
don't know what is good art, what is bad art. There's a huge barrier of what we call, fear of social mockery. Like my fear is you will come to my house and you'll point out to a painting I bought and say, "Yeah, what rubbish have you bought?"
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So those are genuine concerns that people have. And then there are obviously also concerns about, is this a fake? Is this original? Will I be able to resell it? Will this appreciate? Those are the other sort of concerns that people have.
Okay.
So these are the basic barriers that we are trying to address. I think in terms of building transparency, building aggregation, traditionally you would go to one art gallery and you would, just be at the mercy of that gallerist. And he or she may show you 5 works and say these are the best works.
Correct.
You have no idea what's lying in another gallery in Chennai or another gallery in Kolkata. There might be better works lying there. So at least by putting everything on one platform today, a buyer can see works from galleries across the country on one platform.
Yeah, that's
true. You can
true.
compare prices, you can see what kind of work is lying. So we've already built in a lot of transparency in it, in the system. And that's something that people are really welcoming.
Okay.
The second big thing that we've addressed is that we allow buyers to resell.
Okay.
So if you bought something from us, or even if you bought it from somewhere else, you can come back and resell your work on Mojarto.
Oh, that's great. Okay.
So that's a big thing. It builds a huge amounts of liquidity.
Okay.
And I think the third thing that we're trying to do is we're really trying to build content which helps you to appreciate that work better. Giving you a little bit of talking points, trying to give you the right vocabulary on how to explain this painting to somebody who comes to your house. And comments on it, and trying to understand where this painting came. And usually the content around art has either been really this high-end, fancy words like which nobody can understand, right? Or there is nothing. And I think we are trying to just talk in a more commonplace language and just trying to explain things very, very simply. We've started something called the Mojarto Masterclass, where every week one painting is taken by our curation team, and they run a narrative through it for 1 minute.
Oh, that's
and
excellent. Yeah.
They teach people how to appreciate that. Just look at the texture, look at the nuance, and look at how some of these things are inspired from the artist's early life in a village or in Pakistan or wherever he was at that point in time. Little things like that. And they become really talking points for buyers, and they can start connecting with the painting, and they feel that they can now confidently defend their own decision to buy it also.
Correct.
Which otherwise they felt they couldn't.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's really a category creation job. So there are multiple fronts we are, breaking down back.
Okay. So moving out of business, who would you say was the greatest influencer in your life, or influence in your life rather?
Different people have influenced me at different times, but I really find it very difficult to pin it down on one person. I feel like, sometimes, like one of my early bosses in Unilever was a very big influence on me in terms of my basic marketing concepts, my frameworks, my knowledge. I see that even today I still use some of those frameworks when I make my own when I think through my own concepts and things like that. I think from a leadership and a work culture kind of, point of view, Colgate Palmolive years at Colgate was a big influence and shaped the way I would like cultures to be created in my workplaces. So I think that it's got a great culture, Colgate as a company, and some great HR practices. And, that as an organization influenced me a lot, both in my personal life as well as in my professional life. And, then you meet people along the way. And, I've briefly volunteered for a political startup, which is the Aam Aadmi Party. And I met many people there who influences on me in terms of the kind of sacrifices they'd made for public service and things like that. So that's been a huge influence. So and I look back at myself, I feel like I'm just been shaped by so many people. I'm so lucky to be shaped by so many good people that I've had the good fortune of meeting along my life.
And what would you say is the best advice you've been given over time?
Uh, well, again, different. I think my husband's been a big influence on me, I should say, actually. He's one of the most chilled out, zen kind of people that you could come across. And, every time that I feel like I'm in, deep shit, or I feel like, oh, things are so bad, and he'll always be a very, good at putting things in perspective and really helping me understand and appreciate that, this is not bad. Bad is when XYZ happens. This is not bad.
Okay.
So you can't sort of start feeling bad about these little things and, stuff like that. So I think he's been, quite a big influence on me in that sense as well. Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, you had before Indian Art Collectors, you were with corporate jobs. So when did you know that you were meant for entrepreneurship, or this is something you wanted to do?
Rajiv, I'm actually an entrepreneur by chance.
Okay.
Right. I don't think, even when I look at myself right now, like I have done 2-3 years of entrepreneurship, but do I think that, I can't work for a company ever again? No, I don't think like that. I probably can work for a company again,
Okay.
So a lot of entrepreneurs are like just so averse to ever going back and,
very true.
Working. So I don't have those issues. I think that there are lots of good things that I've learned as an entrepreneur. And I feel like I wanted to reinvent myself, also test my own boundaries and see that, okay, I had this really fancy job, right? I was EVP, CMO at Axis Bank. You can imagine how powerful bank roles are. So they always 10 people waiting to meet you. And I came down from there and just, literally in the office that I used to run, if the cleaning lady didn't come, even that was my responsibility.
Okay.
Right, because it's I'm the owner of the. So I've done all sorts of jobs, as an entrepreneur, and I think it's really nice in the sense I felt quite proud at myself that I could reinvent myself, and I could shed a lot of things that I felt I couldn't live without, and I realized that no, I can. I mean, it's all right if people don't know my company's name. It's all right if I have to wait to meet people. It's all right if I have to go and pitch to people, whereas all my life people have been pitching to me.
Correct.
So I think it's just been a great personal development, the journey, and has helped me to explore a side of me which I didn't even know I had, or I wasn't confident that I could live without some of the trappings of the corporate world and things like that.
Yeah.
And I just feel very happy that I could. And
that's good. So, I mean, during the running your startup, I mean, was there any low point where you just wanted to completely give up?
Every other day. In fact, sometimes, even in the same day, like, especially when you're fundraising.
I know.
When I look at Shark Tank and my daughters watch it and with my husband, and I was like, this is nothing, yaar. I mean, I've gone through much worse. So,
I feel that.
And they're like, don't be silly. It can't. Nobody in real life can behave like this. I was like, you bet they can. So, and sometimes in the same day, I would go up and down like 3 or 4 times, because different investors give you different points of view. Some tell you that, if you'd not done this thing, we would have given you money. If you'd done that, we would have given you money. So, they keep creating so many doubts in your mind that, okay, are you doing the right thing? Did you take the right decisions? And you're never really sure about the feedback that you're getting, right? Because sometimes it's just their way of saying no. It's not necessarily, it's not necessarily like your, advice which they are giving out of love for you. So it's been really quite a up and down kind of a roller coaster. And so many times. But yes, I had set out a date for myself. I mean, the NDTV acquisition happened in September end or October last year.
Okay.
And I had set a date for myself as 31st March.
Okay.
And I had said that, look, if I don't see this going anywhere by the 31st of March, then I will shut it down.
Oh, that's good. Okay. That's good to have an end date.
Because I had an end date. Because, you can't keep
absolutely.
Yeah, especially when you're bootstrapping. I mean, there's a limit to how much money you can put in yourself. Yeah, so I had.
So obviously you're involved in the hiring process at Mojarto. So, and what would you look for in the person who wants to join?
It's a very interesting sort of a hire for anybody that we get, because it's a little bit of a, we always need somebody who at least has some basic appreciation for the arts.
Okay.
And that's not necessarily something you need in any other, like suppose I was running Jabong or Snapdeal or something like that. I mean, if I was looking for a content writer, I would just look for content writing skills, and then they would write about clothes and phones and gadgets. But you can't do that in Mojarto. Even if you're looking for a content writer, that person has to have some artistic sensibility,
correct.
should be able to appreciate it, should be able to use the correct set of words. Remember, all our sellers, like who are our artists and our galleries, are extremely sensitive and touchy people, right? If you write even 2 words incorrectly, you'll probably have a revolt on your hands.
Okay.
So, so we need to be very, very careful about how we write, how our graphics looks, how everything. So for the first thing we look for really is, do you have an interest in this category, and is it something that is of interest to you, or you appreciate it, or have some sort of association with a category at least. I think that's the first thing. The second thing, I've always looked for complementary skills. I know what I'm good at. I know what the other people in the team are good at, and I look for people who will fill up those gaps. You don't want more of your own kind of people. You want people who bring stuff to the table which you can't bring.
Okay.
Because in a small team, that's very important. You can't have duplicating skill sets, and you can't have voids. You can't have a team where there's nobody who knows how to do one thing.
That's true. Yep.
So I think that's something that I'm quite particular about.
So, what's something, any new feature or launch coming up that's getting you and the team really excited?
Well, there are many things. We've recently launched a feature called the Artify,
Okay.
which you will see in the top navigation. And this stems from a very interesting insight that if you go to most Indian homes, you'll find that what they put on their walls is actually photographs of their family.
You're correct.
Right?
Yeah.
So ugly ones, that too. So, big blow-ups of wedding pictures and baby pictures and Dadaji's and Dadiji's photo and things like that, right? So, and we realized that there was a time when photographs were precious because they were so difficult to do. It was an occasion, you would dress up, you would go to a studio, or the man would come home, and he would really capture an occasion which was so special because photographs didn't happen every day. But now what's happened is that photographs have become like, every 5 minutes we are photographing our lives, right?
Yep.
And like somebody said that there isn't a generation which has photographed such useless lives so much. And that's what we seem to be doing. So now photographs have become very commonplace. And what we are trying to show, trying to do with the Artify feature is we are telling people, look, give us your photographs and we'll convert them into works of art.
Okay. Oh, that makes
sense. So that your photograph would actually, and this is worked on by digital artists and really, converted into and you can choose your style. So you can say, okay, I want a pop art looking photo, or I can, I want a realistic photo, or I want a sketch, or I want a charcoal. And, it'll look like as if it's a work of art, but it'll be, your loved ones or whoever's picture you gave to do that. So what happens is that the people, this is really, people start getting an appreciation of art. They understand like, okay, this is a canvas, this is a paper, this is charcoal, this is oil. They get some basic vocabulary and appreciation of art.
Yep.
And secondly, their photographs start looking special because otherwise they just look like,
True. Yeah.
1 of 100. Yeah. So that's a new feature that we've recently launched.
Okay. So where do you see yourself and your business, let's say, in the next 2 to 3 years?
Yeah, I think it's important for us to start, clocking about, at least 15 to 20 crores annually in terms of gross sales.
Okay.
So yeah, I think that's important. We need to be able to aggregate and explore the market. I think Mojarto is best poised to do that. Our combination of our affiliate traffic from NDTV, our ability to produce content, our television programming, advertising, a strong team, and the market has taken to us, like from the supplier side, in a very nice manner, and they're aggregating to us. Everybody in the art space, whether it's a gallerist, a critic, or a writer, a designer, they are seeing us as being the platform. So I think that's that's really exciting for us. We already have a huge traffic of over 100,000 a month,
and that's very good. Yeah.
Expect to be, we expect it to go up to about 300,000 a month.
Okay,
I think that's
great. So now we move on to the show, which is part of the show, which is a quick fire round, simple, brief answers. Okay. When people ask you, what do you do? How do you answer that?
I'm a farmer.
Okay. When you think of the word successful, who is the first person that comes to mind?
Tough question.
You can pass, no problem.
Yeah, I'll pass actually.
What do you excel at that people might not realize?
Empathy.
Okay. What is something you believe in that other people think is insane?
Obsessive passion for the environment.
Okay. And what do you say is your greatest weakness?
I think I take I get carried away sometimes.
Okay. M-commerce or e-commerce?
E-commerce.
Okay. And your favorite city globally?
Chandigarh.
Okay. Finally, any last thought or piece of advice that you may have missed that you want to give aspiring founders and listeners?
I think, lately I meet so many young people who are starting up businesses, and they sometimes come up with fairly half-baked ideas. And they've thrown everything behind them, behind the idea.
Yeah, very true.
And I would really advise people not to do that. I think it's like really dangerous because everybody's just getting carried away by this startup boom. But you really need to think through your idea and be sure you have an idea before you sort of, put your all behind it. I think that's really important.
Okay.
Secondly, I see a lot of couples who get into things together. And I would really advise that at least one person should have a steady job and a steady salary. I think that's quite important. And I would not advise people to bootstrap if they are not earning. I think it's a good idea to run a venture on the side if your organization allows you to.
Okay.
Because you can bootstrap it. At the same time, you can test the waters before you jump into it.
Very true. Okay. And please let our listeners know how they can reach you and also Mojarto.
Mojarto is at www.mojarto.com. You can also write to us at contactus@mojarto.com.
Okay.
Personally, you can reach out to me, on Twitter. My handle is mlath Gupta mlath Gupta on Twitter. So, and they're on LinkedIn as well, Manisha Lath Gupta. So, both these places you can get in touch with me.
Again, Manisha, thanks for taking the time to talk to us and inspiring our listeners to start their ventures, and also all the very best at building and scaling Mojarto.
Thank you so much, Rajiv. Pleasure to talk to you as well.
Do visit mojarto.com and visit us at theasianentrepreneur.com to get the show notes and subscribe to our show on all the platforms. And do leave a review on your thoughts about the show. Thank you.
Thank you for listening, and please subscribe to the show so you don't miss an episode. In the meantime, head over to theasianentrepreneur.com and check out show notes and other information to motivate you in your entrepreneurial endeavors.